morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee with KPP, the show that's dedicated to providing you with advice for life so that you can live richly and realize the life that you've earned. My name's Kyle Roy, financial advisors with Kentucky Planning Partners, and I'm so proud to be joined with John Stewart, president and founder of Encompass Design and Development, based in LaGrange, Kentucky.
The navel of the universe, LaGrange, Kentucky.
Oh, no, it's the Be Kind Center of the universe, isn't it?
It is, yes, it is. It's the Be Kind capital of the world, yeah.
That just named last year, right?
Yeah. On national news, too.
Well, you know, and John, you and I have built a friendship really in the last 6 months. Yeah. I didn't know you a year ago. Yeah. We both work out with a national organization called F3, stands for Fitness, Fellowship, and Faith. So at 5:30 in the morning across the country, if you see men dancing in parking lots or doing seemingly odd things,
carrying concrete blocks on your shoulder, yeah.
And I am witness to John doing 36 minutes straight of burpees with a concrete block over his head.
Yeah, fun stuff. Just getting in shape for the next race.
That's right, and we're going to talk about that. So John is the founder and president, like I said, of Encompass Design and Development, which was started in 2009.
Started actually in 1999.
1999, pardon me. Okay, pardon me, 1999. So a 22-year-old company. But is a national organization that builds hospitals, casinos, community developments. And John's going to talk about that. And the organization is probably one of those that you've never heard of, but most likely have been affected by somehow, because the breadth and scope of projects that John has done and his team have done really are nationally, if not international.
Aruba, if you consider that international. So yes, international, but really only two countries, Jamaica and Aruba. So international,
right? We'll go with that. And I was telling John before we started today, yesterday we met in preparation for this conversation, and John is such an extraordinary person. I feel like I'm going to have to glean some things out of him because he's so humble and he's accomplished so much and he gives so much back that I'm really going to try to glean those bits of information, because he's going to say things that are really extraordinary but are really everyday for John. Every day John wakes up and he and his team accomplish extraordinary things. They're doing extraordinary things in communities across the country, and I want to talk about really what makes him tick. What makes you tick, John? And so first of all, if you don't mind, let's give the listeners a background of your organization, a little bit of background of you. What has your organization done? How large? What is your scope? And tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, can we just talk about you instead?
No.
That's more fun.
No, it's not. It's not, I assure you.
You know, I worked for a firm, a great firm here in Louisville, Luckett & Farley Architects and Engineers, and for years. And after we'd gone through and grown the company, we had 200 people, 5 offices around the country. I went to my bosses and said, hey, I'm going to leave and start a little company and do design and construction, and won't compete. And the next day they called me in the office, two gentlemen that owned the firm at the time, and said, hey John, we would love for you to stay here and do that. So put some money in the bank. We started this little business, and started designing and building. Our first project was Kentucky Country Days Upper School. We designed and built that school, and we weren't great at building relationships at that point. We made some money, and we did, got them done on time and within the budget. And then the next one was another student center and a dormitory at a college in Kentucky. But I didn't feel like we were really on the path to where I wanted us to go. So we changed routes a little bit, got into government work, grew that route, and then we were traveling even more. So we were working for had an Air Force contract, and did work in New Mexico and up in Boston for that, and then got involved in some other work and just kind of ran the gamut. And what I was a liaison for the CEO at the time of Churchill Downs, and he wanted somebody that could speak the language of architects and contractors and also understand him.
Okay.
And they were doing a really large project, and we would walk through the job every Friday. And just he and I developed a really strong relationship.
At Churchill Downs?
At Churchill Downs. And Luckin & Farley at the time was the architect. So we were a wholly owned subsidiary of Luckin & Farley, and then I bought 27% of the company after a couple of years.
So I know that you were with Luckin & Farley for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You were instrumental in building Luckin & Farley from an organization of 20 employees.
22.
22.
When I came on.
In about
Yeah.
19...
That was in the 80s. Yeah.
Okay, in the late
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
By the time you started the new venture in 1999, there were over 200 employees at Luckin & Farley, correct?
We had grown to over 200, and then had to make some cutbacks because one of our large clients had filed bankruptcy. So
Okay.
and it was kind of a perfect time for that transition for me as well.
And that was going into the 2000 correction, right?
Mhm.
Now, granted,
Yeah.
you didn't know that at the time, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
And you know, so that during that time at Luckin & Farley, just to give the listeners a scope of the type of projects you're working on. So, you know, when John talks about government projects and things like that, they're really large deals, right? One of the largest deals that he had done was a $1 billion project for Ford Motor Plant here in Louisville, Kentucky,
Yeah.
in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And so if you don't mind, I found that story fascinating. So if we kind of rewind a little bit,
Okay.
go back to 1993,
Yeah.
when you were really on the cutting edge of commercial development and design with VR and things like that. So tell a little bit about that, if you don't mind, just to give the listeners a scope of the type of projects you work on.
You bring this stuff up, and I look back and I think, wow, I really did have some really cool opportunities. But we were working with Ford Motor Company, and I had been assigned just to go out and like test some fence poles. I was an architect, and he's the project manager there said, hey, go do a report on this fence for me.
Ford, was it a Ford Motor Company fence?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were given a project to go test fence posts.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, got
and
it.
see what was wrong with it, why was stuff failing, and I did a report. I mean, went out there in my boots and overcoat in the middle of winter. We were drilling holes and foundations, and so we figured out what was wrong with it. I gave him this guy the report, and we started clicked, and then I got the next assignment was. We talked a little bit about my designs. He was asking me about what I had done before, and I showed him some of my designs, and some of those things are kind of out there in the Louisville area, especially. And he said, "Hey, got a great project for you, and you seem like the kind of guy that can handle this. UAW is over here, and Ford Motor Company is over here, and we're going to do a project together. And it's a fitness and training center for Ford Motor Company at the Chamberlain Lane plant. And project went really well. I mean, it was able to get everybody in the room. We agreed. That's one of the proudest I am of some of my design is that project. It's still there, and it's got wings. The walls are sloped. The roof is cool.
So you went from fixing a fence to building a multi-million-dollar fitness design or fitness
training and fitness center. Yeah,
for UAW
Ford.
employees for Ford.
Yeah.
So I think the moral of the story there is, I mean, and again, I told John has these. He's so humble. I was just fixing a fence. You must have fixed that fence really well. I mean, but you know, you don't do anything. You don't do anything halfway. You're always all in. So I can imagine that it wasn't just fixing the fence well, because, and just to give you perspective, these fences that are around these plants are a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But also you develop that relationship with the person that put you up to it well. And I think it just goes to show you're one of those people, as a lifelong Red Sox fan, it pains me to say this, but you kind of remind me of Derek Jeter a little bit, in that Derek Jeter was a Yankee through the 90s, early 2000s, that literally ran to first base as hard as he could, even if it was a ground ball to the pitcher. And he always would say, well, I just don't know if it's going to be my last time. And you seem to have that kind of perspective in that everything you do, you don't take it for granted. You do it as well as you possibly can. And that led to the next step. So not only the fitness development, but also what else?
Well, that project went really well. We were winding it down, and he called me in. He said, I want you to go to Dearborn with me. And that's Ford's headquarters is there. And so I went back to my boss at the time and said, hey, I need to travel. And he goes, how much is it going to cost? I said, Ford put me on their plane and go fly me up there. So we flew up, and I walk in this room, and they're designing a pickup truck in this room. All these engineers, and I think about the complexity of getting, you know, a glove box door to latch. You know, we don't think about that stuff, but
so it's not simple.
It's not simple, and then our job was, how do you build the box around the conveyors that make that, you know, that assemble, you know, for the assembly process. And it was just so interesting to me, and so I dove in head first, tried to learn everything I could, and ended up being in charge of the design for that project, and it was about $1 billion project. And
$1 billion project with a B.
With a B, yeah. And
in 1993.
That was the 93, 94 time period, and so it was exciting. I would go home for dinner, kiss the kids, read them a book, and put them in the bed, and go back out to Ford, you know, at night, because a lot of the work was nighttime work. We worked, you know, multiple shifts, but yeah, and that project, the opportunities that I was given, though, the freedom, because my bosses trust me. I don't even like to use the word boss. I don't ever use it. Nobody can call me boss in our organization, but those guys trust me. They call me John.
John?
Yeah. Yeah. Not Holy Roller.
No.
That's another.
That's an F3 inside joke.
Yeah.
His nickname's Holy Roller. Because he built churches and now he builds casinos. Yeah, it's brilliant.
But if you fast forward on all that to the Churchill stuff, one day I'm walking with Steve Sexton, who's passed away since then, but walking around, and he goes, "Hey John, we're doing this casino down in New Orleans at our track down there. Why don't you go down there and, you know, just make it happen?" And I said, "Steve, I've never done a casino." And he said, "Well, we haven't either, so it'll be a good fit." So they had a partner at the time on it, ended up doing it all as a Churchill project, and that's how I got into the casino.
What year was that?
It was probably 2002, maybe.
Okay, early 2000s. So markets are going down.
No, it was earlier. I mean, it was more recent than that. 2004.
Okay. And what was Mr. Sexton's first name?
Steve.
Steve Sexton, former CEO of Churchill Downs.
Mm-hmm.
So you had developed a relationship with Steve.
Yeah.
CEO of Churchill Downs, one of the most historic and beloved organizations in America, right?
Yeah.
To keep with the baseball theme, it's like the Fenway Park of horse racing, right?
Yeah.
Wrigley Field, there's Churchill Downs, Americana.
Yeah.
He's building a hotel in New Orleans, or in casino in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
No experience. Just because he trusts you and the type of person you are, he wanted you to build it.
I guess that's the story. Yeah.
So let's talk about that, because one of the things that strikes me about you in our conversation in preparation for this yesterday was your reliance on relationships, and it really has. One of the things I was thinking about, if you don't mind telling us about the story that happened in 2015 and just how important relationships are to you, and especially in business. I heard a business leader a couple weeks ago said every business is a people business.
Yeah.
No matter what business you're in, it's a people business. And to have heard your stories and how genuine you are, first of all, because relationships don't happen overnight. Talk about, if you don't mind, your general belief in how your company manages relationships, and go into what happened in 2015 as a real concrete example of just how serious you and your team is about that.
Yeah, well, we had a project that just went upside down. I mean, in the management of that project, and it was, you know, I could start to see as things unfolded, you know, from one of our project managers, things unfolded, and I get this knock on the door, "John, you need to look at the numbers on this thing." We had been hit hard with weather, and we had a one-page contract that said, "Hey, we'll build this," and there's no amounts or anything in it. But I made a commitment. The commitment was, we're going to build this for this amount, and we're going to get it done in this time. And we just essentially, while it wasn't all of our fault, we were the project lead, and we had some real errors. We had to bring in extra contractors to finish the job on time, and it cost a lot of money, and we lost a lot of money. And we reached out to all of our subcontractors and said, I said, hey, I promise we're going to get you paid in full, but it may take us a little bit longer than we all hope for.
Mm-hmm. And when subs hear that, what do they generally think? We're never going to get paid.
Or they think, well, we'll hopefully get paid and we don't end up in a lawsuit. There were no liens filed, no lawsuits filed at all on that project. And I at the end of that whole mess, and when we went and made all the last payments, I took the checks and a note that I'd written to those contractors to just thank them for partnering with us on that and getting through that with us. And I had one contractor that called me. He wasn't in the shop when I was there that day, and he called the next day and said, "Hey, were you really in my shop, or was that just somebody on your behalf?" No, I said, "Yeah, I was there." And he said, "So you came to my shop and delivered a check to me?" I said, "Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for walking beside us on this and bearing with us as we worked out how to keep our promise." He goes, "You asked us to bid on this work at Belterra, the casino," and we were like, "Well, I don't know. I mean, these guys, we don't know them. We did our first job, and it was slow getting paid." And he goes, "But because you did that, it speaks about who you are and who your company is, and we'll go anywhere you want." And since then, we've worked with them obviously a few more times, but for me, it was about how do you keep that integrity, and how do you keep your, I wanted to keep those promises. And so even our bank, it's amazing. Our bank is a big bank. Well, I'll mention their name. PNC has been fantastic to work with us. I mean, over the years, it's been absolutely fantastic.
So even at the highest levels of corporate America, I always like to tell people a company's only as good as the people behind it.
Yeah.
And whether it's PNC, whether it's Churchill Downs, whether it's Encompass, whether it's KPP here, that it really does matter the people and the why, the philosophy, the why that they're doing it. And so, and just to give a little bit of color, when John mentions projects at Belterra, some other projects that you might be familiar with is John and his company have done additions to Churchill Downs, massive additions. The Tropicana Casino in Evansville, Kentucky. What's the casino down in Miami that you Calder Casino, hospital builds throughout the community. So these aren't small projects here. So the relationships that your company has with the subcontractors, you're based in Louisville. Yeah, your team's probably traveling all over, but those relationships that you have, whether it's in Miami, in Evansville, in Boston, or New York, if you can't trust the people that you're working with, what else do you have?
Yeah, that's exactly true. A lot of times people will say, "How can you be who you are and then do casino work?" And I think about the leadership right now at Churchill Downs, and those guys are, I would consider them my friends. And a lot of times people say a company name, they don't have any idea who the people are behind that company name, and there are always people there.
Always.
And for me, even going through hard times and going through tough times, those people are still those ones you can call up and say, hey, we're really messed up, or hey, we've got some great stuff coming up. But we call them extraordinary relationships, where I'm not looking for a short-term thing. If somebody says, "Hey, will you bid a job for us?" we rarely will bid a job, because our jobs are about relationships. So we set our business up so that we can partner and truly have a more transparency in that whole process in design and construction.
So, and that has to be unique, right? So if we don't, let's unpack that for a moment. So let's go back to this decision in 2015 when you said the tune of a lot of money. We don't need to give a number, but it was in the millions of dollars that it cost your company. Yeah. And your company wasn't obligated to necessarily finalize that deal, were you? I mean, legally.
Not contractually, correct.
Not contractually.
No.
So in the business world, right, there were probably some that would have considered you following through on your promise to be an irresponsible business deal.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a lot of the folks that I reached out to and said, what would you do in this situation? A lot of them, you know, bankruptcy would have been an easy option at that point, and would have left a whole lot of people that I really feel responsible for, you know, those families. Mm-hmm. It's not just that one person, but it's that person's family, and they work for other employees. So, and
their children and grandchildren. Who knows the impact? Yeah. So you own that, right? You you own that. You took responsibility for that, mm-hmm. and even though you didn't have to, and the business acumen might have said, the CFO might have said, don't do it, mm-hmm. but you did. And I think this is important because sometimes what seems to be the best business decision isn't the right decision, mm-hmm. but this seems to be a decision where I am a believer that the right choice is always the best business decision. Yeah. Might not be the best financial decision. Yeah. So talk about, if you don't mind, for a moment, how is the right decision, short-term horrible business-wise, but long-term better business-wise?
In that instance?
Yeah, you know, obviously the bank relationship is great, subs are great, but did business come back after that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we didn't lose a long-term relationship, but because of that, we had to separate ourselves further from that organization that we were working for. So, but what it did was said, okay, wait a second, we had all our eggs in this one basket. We need to really spread out and do that. So today, if you look at, we're all over, you know, we're still in that hospitality industry as our primary focus, but we're doing local restaurants here for my friend Gustavo, and you know, and actually having some amazing projects to work with. Had we continued on that route, we would miss some of those opportunities. So, and to really branch out, meet more people, yeah. to carry this, you know, our whole company mission out there further. So that's beautiful. So effectively, that pain was just a cost of education. It was,
yeah. And
a little bit of headache here and there.
Yeah, sure.
But what are we gonna do tomorrow? Are we gonna eat?
without pain, though, there's little growth.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your company mission, and I want to talk about the charitable aspect of your organization, if you don't mind.
Well, the purpose of Encompass is to do, it's sometimes in these settings it's hard to talk about because I don't want it to come across as any marketing stuff at all. It doesn't. We don't ever tell our partners our clients, we call partners, we don't ever tell them until we're deep into work some of the things we want to do with, you know, and we want to partner with them on. Just give you a quick example and then I'll go back to your question. We do a lot of work with Native American tribes and nations around the country. And I have a business partner who is Native, and we have an Encompass Native in Oklahoma. So we are working at building a hotel at beside a casino in Oklahoma, and I called the tribal chief and Glenna Wallace, and I said, Glenna, we would like to, or Chief, I didn't call her Glenna. Chief, we would like to, I know you don't know much about the rest of Encompass, but we're about something other than building buildings and designing them. And we'd like to find out what it is. How can we work with your tribe on anything that you have? And so the first thing we did was buy a bunch of turkeys for Thanksgiving and give away or boxes of food.
Wow.
And
what was the tribe?
The Eastern Shawnee.
Okay.
And so we, but she wrote me a note and said, you know, you asked what you could do, and my great-grandson has cancer. Mm. And he's I think at the time he was 6 or 7 years old, and his dad had to take him to get cancer treatments. And she said, they just need somebody to talk to them and the family. And I know you've told me that you have this guy who's a chaplain, and wouldn't it be great if they could talk to each other? So we get to the end of the project, and they're doing the grand opening, and she's standing up there giving a speech, and she speaks so eloquently, beautiful. I mean, just such a poet, and she's talking about the tribe and how far the tribe has come and what they've been able to do because of, casinos. And then she says, but you know what I'm going to remember about this project? And she pointed to me and she said, I told John and Encompass about my great-grandson, and they flew somebody out that could walk with my son and my great-grandson and my grandson as they took him to his cancer treatments and spent that time with him and poured into him. That's what I'm going to remember. I'm not going to remember about the beautiful hotel room. And that is kind of summed up what our business is about. It's about those kind of relationships, and what do we do, and how can we make a difference in our little world of design and construction, wherever we are. And that's part of, we call it our why. The why of Encompass is to meet people's needs where we can. We've set up a foundation. We had one guy, he was on a job site, he goes, hey, he calls me up, hey John, there's a house, a family got burned out of their house, and I know we can help them through this little church that's taking up collections. And I said, okay, we'll go help them. And, that's what we do. And
how did you help them? I've heard this story, so I'm gonna.
Well, there's a couple of these stories, but we were able to help them get into a place to live. We were able to buy them clothes and get them some of the stuff that they need. And the guy, this guy Joe Vance, who has passed away this past year, but he was so excited, and he went to this church service the next Sunday. He'd never been to a church out there at all. And Joe, you got to imagine Joe's 6'2", a really deep radio voice, and he walks in this church, and it's an African American church, and he walks in, the only white guy in the whole building, so he stood out like a thumb in the church. And he says that one of the best experiences I had, and these people were all hugging me, and
loving on him.
Yeah. And some of those experiences our team members get to have. This isn't about me, so it's about our team members get to do that.
Is that the project where you rebuilt the house too?
No, that's a different one.
Okay, that's a different one.
Yeah.
So, and I mean that it's extraordinary because it is. You would think that. I keep coming back to the theme that what doesn't seem like smart business actually is. Why else are we in business than to really change the world in a positive note?
Yeah.
To those whom much is given, there's great responsibility that's right. So much is expected. So, and you just embody that and you live that, and so when we talk about the experiences now. So not only are you building experiences for your partners, not your clients, your partners, right? And you have partners literally all over the country. Let's talk about what you're doing for their clients or their partners. So one of the things that I really love about your organization is the sensory informative design. Because when the chief talks about the experience, and by the way, how is her grandson doing?
As a great-grandson, and the last I heard from her is doing well still.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah,
That's great.
absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. That's a miracle. And so this sensory informative design now, people go into your casinos or your buildings, your hotels. Talk about how sensory informative design will determine what they remember about their experiences with projects that you have, because it's not just going to be maybe it will be the person at the front desk or something, but what are you doing that's really at the cutting edge of neuroscience and design for buildings, and what do you see in the future?
Well, big, giant, broad subject.
It's a little question.
Little question. Yeah. I've been working with some groups. There's a number of architects that come together with neuroscientists, and really, how do we design buildings, and what goes on when we walk in a space? What goes on when we open a door handle? And every sensory experience that we have. And if I ask you, what was the last great experience that you have, what would you say? So if you said, hey, I was on the beach, And and I said, okay, well, tell me what it looked like. Tell me what it smelled like. Tell me, was the wind blowing? What's the temperature like? Our memory, we capture all that in those great experiences. And we can tell those stories because we can actually even relive it. The parts of our brain that when we experience that warm breeze and we remember that, or we saw that, those same parts of our brain light up when we have that memory. So we know that when we design places and spaces, that we can actually enhance those memories. So we can enhance your experience. So whether it be in a hospital room, and there's a lot of research being done in healthcare. Neuroscientists don't study the whole brain. Neuroscientists study one piece. Well, if we're able to pull all those pieces together, kind of like we do in a building, there's heating, cooling, there's electrical. Architects need to know a lot of that stuff. Don't need to know everything about it because we have the experts. But if we can pull that all together. So we're really focused on, when we do design, no matter what it is. We just finished a government building for the Quapaw tribe. And they wanted people, after they left that building, had courtrooms, social services, methadone clinic, but they wanted to grab a little bit of that culture and history of the Quapaw tribe when they left there. So the door handle, first thing, what's the door handle on this building, do you know?
Yeah, it's a metal one.
Yeah, it's memorable.
No, I'm trying to remember if it's a doorknob or a door handle, and I come here every day.
Yeah. So on their door handle is actually a piece of cedar is really important to the Quapaw tribe, and so it's a piece of cedar. And the more people touch that handle, the more, even the softer that gets. And
wow.
So it's those little things you don't have to pay a lot of money for, but that are memorable. And so if we can combine two of our senses in that, or three, that we can really enhance
personal story. It's as you mentioned that I lived in New York City for 7 years, and there's a pub. One of the oldest pubs in New York is called McSorley's Pub. You ever been?
Where is it?
It's in I think it's in the Village, East Village, I think.
No, I don't think so.
And so what I remember about McSorley's, usually from early on in the evening, is the door handle to the bathroom. Sounds bizarre, I know, but here's why. Because when you said the wood handle, it gets softer, at McSorley's, the door handle into the bathroom, it's a several hundred-year-old pub, it's so worn that from people's hands grabbing it, there's literally a hole on the other side of the door.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember that, but I don't know the door handles that are 15 feet from me.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, because there's got to be maybe a confluence of design, because again, we're talking hotels to methadone clinics to casinos, right?
Right. Yeah.
And there's got to be a confluence of utility, because the heat systems, the heat ducts need to work, and I am a layman when it comes to construction, okay?
Yeah.
But so how are you making sure that you maintain utility, but also keeping that experience in mind? That's got to be a fascinating and exciting type of avenue, because until now it seems like people have just worried about utility, and especially casinos, hospitals. To your mention, I don't know, like the breeze is what you remember at the beach. I mean, are you placing vents in a place where it can disperse the smell more effectively, but also heat the building effectively? How are you doing all that?
Yeah, there's a lot of technology in that. So it's kind of, building technology is we still do a lot of the stuff the same way we've been doing it for 100 years or 200 years in building. But a lot of advancements, especially with things like COVID, where the heating and cooling systems now become something that can take those things out of the air, that virus out of the air. So we're addressing that. A lot of casinos are smoking casinos, so how do we get the smoke truly out of the air? And that's by air changes and more air changes, but how do you do that without creating a breeze that freezes people? There's some complexities to all that. And we understand, you have to understand human beings. You have to understand even more. I mean, I volunteered at an emergency room at U of L for 2 years just to understand more about people. Wow. And more about those environments. And, so
whoa.
Yeah.
The president of an organization doing $50 to $100 million a year worth of projects, you volunteered in an emergency room for a couple of years just to understand how to build a better emergency room.
How to build a better that whole treatment process. So it's not just about, so when we do a project, it's not it's about the people that experience that project. Even a salt storage building, people still have to go in the salt storage building and maintain it. They have to so every one of those projects where we have to think about who are those people that are going to be in there. We're designing a Library of American History right now, kind of a national monument in LaGrange, Kentucky, and just thinking about that. This thing is about the foundations of our company, our country, and how important that is. I mean, we have a huge rock right in the middle of the first level of that. Just that, what was this country founded on, and the rock being that what were we founded on? Can we go back? And the books in that library are all speak to that. And so we those projects we designed. Taco Bell's headquarters in Irvine, California, and built it. And the assignment from the CEO at the time was, we need a building that's going to work for the team members that will be there are now in high school. So you need to design a building for those that
and
are
the
in high
CEO
school.
had the perspective to be able to realize that.
Yeah. So really, I mean,
hats off to him or her.
Yeah, you and this little company in LaGrange has been able to partner with some great, opportunities.
And it seems so obvious when you say it. Build a building for the people that are going to be using it. But it seems that, for me, I would always assume that you build a building just for the purpose of the building, right?
Yeah.
And that's got to be standard operating procedure. But what I'm seeing, what differentiates you, is that subtlety, right? It's about the people.
Yeah.
Granted, there's functionality that needs to be had, but what kind of experience are those people going there every day going to be able to have? And it's not just the clients; it's the employees. It's it's the inhabitants, and that's, again, it just seems so obvious, but also so enlightening.
There's really, you think about a hotel room, and I do this talk about sensory informed design for a lot of people in the industry, and one of the things I talk about is the hotel room door. You got your wheelie bag and you're going up to, unless somebody's carrying your bag for you, but you come out the door and you slide that card in, or we don't usually
it's so frustrating when it doesn't work.
It doesn't work, and then you turn the door handle, and the doors push in, and they're usually on a pretty hard hinge because they have to close because it's a fire-rated corridor. And what's the first thing you smell?
Yeah.
And
whether it's a smoking room, you got to pull the bag in quick so it doesn't slam on your roller bag. Yeah.
So what a great experience for that. This could be a magnificent experience. I call it the threshold experience. A little bit of anticipation, got some dopamine going on there when you open the door and you smell this wonderful smell. And then you walk in, there's music playing that's stress relieving music. There's one playlist of that'll reduce stress by 60%, and so that's playing. And
I want to go to your hotel.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing. These are simple moves that anybody that has any influence in a hotel can take. And does the crown molding really make a difference, or does the experience of opening the door make a difference? And so we spend the money where those things, where it creates a memory, and then I'm going to go tell you the story about it.
Yeah.
It's like Cinnabon. Can you? Cinnabon, smell that cinnamon smell. Don't eat those things; they're not good for you. But nothing against Cinnabon, but
nothing against Cinnabon.
But I love the smell in the mall when you walk past Cinnabon. But Cinnabon has a patented scent, and they use that everywhere. So
wow.
And
so let's I love it, and we could continue to unpack that. But I wanna talk about your face masks. So talk to us about the face masks. How'd they come about, and talk to us about your new invention.
Well, my business partner, an Encompass native, and I were on the phone one day, and we're just talking around a Zoom, and we're talking about how in the hospitality business, when the start of COVID and things were shutting down, what can we do to help them reopen? And if they reopen, what? So we talked about a disinfecting business and things like that, and both of us have a pretty entrepreneurial spirit. I have 7 businesses right now. My wife goes, wow. So, but. So
seven businesses.
Yeah. So we go, what about? And he just mentioned this clear mask that he saw, and he pulled it up on the screen. It was really ugly, but you could see the person's smile. And said, and they were really advertising it for medical use and for deaf and hearing impaired. And so we said, well, we could do that, but what in the hospitality business, front desk clerks, casino host, even housekeeping folks that just, you know, when you go like this, you lose a whole bunch of that conversation. And so in my garage, I bought those poster, or the report covers, those clear report covers. And I'm sitting in my garage cutting these out and taping foam to them and, you know, trying them out. And we're on calls, and then we partnered with a large manufacturer that manufactures filters and stuff. That they really know a lot about airflow and filters and about you know, different viruses. And so we partnered with them, and they can do silicone molding, and so we had the engineers, the experts. And so over a long period of time, about 6 months it took us to get this to a point where we applied for a patent, got our patent pending on it, and we have our first large shipment of these coming in next week.
Awesome.
And
how large is large?
15,000.
All right.
So a large shipment. I mean, we're getting 20 at a time and sending them out. So that we have them in 5 colors, and you can wear them both ways: anti-fog and on the interior, and replacement lens, so you can actually pop a lens out and put a new one back in.
It's
so
brilliant. Easily cleaned. I mean, it's just,
yeah. You just clean it with just a cloth, soft
yeah.
cloth. Yeah.
So your entrepreneurial spirit just won't end. 7 businesses. Who knows what's next? I mean, you see opportunities and you seize them.
Oh man, I had a phone call just the other night about this group that is putting together a new business, and it just, you know, I get all excited, and it's the next thing. So
well, and just for our viewers, I mean, John does not look his age. I'm gonna call you out here. I'm probably gonna embarrass you a little bit, but John's 60 years old, and working out with John in the morning, there's nobody that can keep up with you.
No,
so,
there are some guys.
Yeah, there are. Okay, there are, but you're usually keeping up with them. Is what's happening.
I'm on their heels, trying to be at least.
And so I'm gonna do it. I mean, we're beyond time, but I don't want to stop. So the other so John does Spartan races competitively, and this will be the last story. I promise. I mean, I just love talking to him. So John does Spartan races competitively, literally travels all over the world. Now you're in a new age group, right?
Yeah. So hopefully there's a few less people out there.
And everybody in his age group should be terrified.
They should come out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And we're doing a Tough Mudder in July. It's going to be awesome, supporting a local charity, charity of yours, not local, but we might want to talk about that after. But tell us the story of your last Spartan race, if you don't mind. I know I'm cleaning it out of you. I know you don't want to, but this is just part of who you are. And it's just one of those extraordinary examples of sportsmanship. So tell us the story. What was your goal to run the race, first of all?
5 hours.
And did you hit that goal?
Yeah.
You hit that goal. All right. So he hit the goal of doing the Spartan race under 5 hours.
Yeah.
And tell him the story, please.
This was at Lake Tahoe, and it was at the site of the 1960 Winter Olympics, so a mountain. And beautiful, beautiful place. And when we started the race, they actually delayed the race a couple hours because it was so cold and snowing, and it was freezing to the obstacles. So you couldn't grip, you know, monkey bars, some of those obstacles. So.
And you had a broken hand as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
That race?
Yeah.
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 Naturally.
So, and I qualified for, this was the World Championship, they call it the Beast, and I qualified in my age group to do this one. So got out there and started the race. The first part's uphill. You do a few obstacles going up, and so you get to a point where you have to do a swim, and it's 23 degrees, 60-mile-an-hour winds, and you got to jump in this 40-degree water and do a swim and come out. And it's not wetsuit stuff. You don't have time to really change. You do bring some dry clothes, but you just basically, you know, take some clothes off, get in the water.
And did you say 40-degree water? 40-degree, like glacial water is what it is. It's cold water. Yeah.
And so you get out and you carry a dry bag. Everything you have to carry everything with you the whole time. So you can't set it down and go swim and come back. You have to take it with you. So I got out, found a big boulder, got behind it, got, you know, some dry clothes on, or at least dry top on, and a hat and a jacket, and started running back down the trail. The trail was single file at that point, kind of on the edge of the mountain, and I heard this guy screaming, and I thought he was just like, "Hey, I got out of the I did that swim, and I'm just screaming." And he turned around though, and he's just delirious, and obviously going through hypothermia. And Spartan rules are you can't help somebody through an obstacle, but they don't say you can't help somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And so
so he was hypothermic, delirious.
Delirious, wet clothes still.
And you had been training for this event for years. I mean, it's an expense to get out there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is an extremely serious international event.
It is, yeah. There are 23 countries or more now, and
you see this gentleman delirious.
Yeah. So I run back over to him and try to get his attention. It's kind of staring through me, and this other lady comes over, and I took my jacket off, and we got his wet shirt off, got that on him. He was wearing shorts, and he was kind of really, he's just shivering, shaking like crazy. So got a jacket on him, and I just bear hugged him from the front, and she held from the back, and we walked for 30 minutes with this guy, just keeping him focused, keeping him walking, moving, and
keeping him warm.
Yeah, and they were able to get the medic, but the medic couldn't get to us because they had a four-wheel cart, but they couldn't get up that trail because it was too narrow. So by the time we got down there, met them there, they put one of the those reflective blankets around him. And, I'd put my hat on him, but I had another one. So and I ran on. So, and I did pretty good time getting down the mountain on that piece, and then I obviously had a lot more obstacles to go, but it was.
And you still finished the race sub 5.
Yeah.
Now, and I wanted to tell this story, so thank you for telling that story. I really want to see the power of the internet here, because you'd never met the person after. What about the lady that helped you help them?
I have no idea who they were. Never saw them.
No, and I mean, and it's not a matter of you getting gratitude, but I'm sure that person, that was an experience you shared with that lady. And if the gentleman's out there, what year was it?
That was 2019.
So in 2019, if you were that person, it's John Stewart, and if you were the lady that helped him, he's
kudos to you. That's what I say.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's who helped save your life, but this goes back to impact and relationship and who you are and how you. I'm sure you didn't even think about it. I know you didn't, and who you are is the person you are in the most volatile experiences and the volatile times, and that's just a perfect example of how genuine you do everything, how you do it all, and I'm just so grateful to know you as a friend. I'll gush all over you as positively as I can, but in the short time that I've known John, aka Holy Roller for all of our F3 brothers, you're just one of those people that make us realize that we can do more, and you can do it with grace, you can do it with dignity, with humility, and it really is true that the more you give, the more you'll get. And it's not a matter of giving to get, but the universe rewards those that are full of the Holy Spirit and just give the way that you do. And it's just part of it's like breathing for you. So thank you for inspiring me.
Well, thank you.
And I'm sure you've inspired others with your stories. And what's your website if people want to learn more about you and what you guys do?
They won't learn more about me much on the website, but yeah, Encompass, with an ENCOMPASS -DDC. It's designed, developed, constructed by a lot of people at dogdogcat.com, so.
And on his website, you can find out John's team. He's put an extraordinary group of human beings together to help accomplish his mission. You can see his mission statement, the projects that he and his team have done. Find out about Encompass Native and some of the charitable causes that he's a part of. John's a member of several boards for charitable organizations, for university. So the level of involvement that he and his team have is really extraordinary, and they do it not for the praise nor the glory, but there's a very good chance depending on where you live, that John and his team have had a positive influence on your life. So keep it up.
I hope so. You too. Thanks for doing this too.
Oh gosh, it's my pleasure. Are you kidding me? I forget that I do it for me. I hope everybody else benefits, right? So with that said, John, thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in the gloom, and on behalf of everybody here at Kentucky Planning Partners, again, thank you for joining us, and for all of you listening, I hope that this was able to help your day, give you some inspiration as to help you realize, no matter where you are, whether it's LaGrange, Kentucky, or a big city, or out in rural Midwest, who knows? It doesn't matter where you are. We do live in a country where you can control your destiny. You can impact your choices. You can make the most out of every day. And if you have that spirit and that energy and the passion to go out and make your life extraordinary, you will. It really is that simple, and John's living proof of it. So don't let anything hold you back. Make that choice today to go out and be great and be a light for others. And that's what we try to do here at Kentucky Planning Partners. So we're located on the East End. I call Louisville the heart of Louisville's East End, on the corner of Hurstbourne Lane and Shelbyville Road. Our phone number is 502-394-0400. And again, thank you, John.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to all of our listeners, I hope you have a great week.